this is Mike, and everybody watches AccessTV.org.
Welcome to Conversatio, the show that goes a long way in helping us to find a way to live in God's way. Today, our subject is going to be the truth. Our guest with us today is Maria Giacco. She's a practitioner and healer and a woman of God. She's also an author of the book, God Does Exist, which we will talk about. Maria affords us an excellent opportunity to understand the elements of spirituality, the chief of which is the truth. I will be trying to get an understanding from our lovely guests and be able to provide you viewers with that understanding. Good day, Maria. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Maria, what conditions free the mind to accept the truth?
Accepting God.
Okay. Is that also true for the actual mind itself? Is there a training of the mind that we need to increase our spirituality?
Yes, we have to accept the God and study His Word through the Bible.
I was thinking about that. The Conversatio literally means being versed. So would you say, as a healer, you might be more versed than the next person in God's Word?
You know, we are all the same. Maybe I might have a more knowledge because God gives all of us different talents. And I've been living by the Bible my whole life.
I know in your book, it seems like you were like, I started reading it, and I said, so when did she meet God? When she was like 3 or 4? You know, it's like, and you were praying for your mom and all. Wow, she met God like, it was like familiar with Him. And that's the whole thing, familiar with Him at a very early age.
Yes, I was. I was 5. It was during the World War II. And of course, you know, wars are not good. And people in my village used to pray and hoping. And my father was in the war. And my mother used to ask me to pray for her. And very obediently, I would stand next to her bed with my hands together, and I simply would say, please, God.
It's okay.
Help my mother. And he always did. Prayer was very simple. And in the meantime, I used to be very sad too. And when I was sad, I would just lie in bed and I would just pray. Please, God, help us. Please, God. helping me to go to America, think American life is better. And my aunt on my father's side, she would sit next to my bed, and she would massage my tummy, and she would say, "But I don't see nothing wrong with her, dear God. Jesus, heal her." Instantly, I used to feel good. This is how I know that God is real, He's alive.
And
It
that,
really happened.
and that personal relationship with God, yours was really intense. And the reason why I bring that out, it seems like through much of your life, when people notice how intense your love for God was, they would say, well, she must be crazy. I was like looking at the definition of crazy, and definition of crazy also adds that, like, when you have an immoderate, it's just over the line affection for something or fondness for something, is part of the definition for crazy. So, if at any time you were crazy, maybe you were just crazy for God.
Yes, I was. Yes, I was.
Which you felt is okay.
In school at that time, the priest had just graduated from, to be a priest, and he used to come to the school and teach us the 10 Commandments. And I literally took them, studied them, and obeyed them. This was why I used to be sad, because at the age of 7, they would tell me, you got to go to confession in order to receive a communion. And I just didn't like that. I used to ask myself, but I didn't do anything wrong. Why do I have to go to confession to tell a man that I did something wrong if I didn't do anything wrong? And the worst part was that in order to have something to tell the priest, I used to lie intentionally. So I have something to tell the priest. And this is why I used to be very sad, very sad.
You were Catholic as a young girl.
I was Catholic,
right.
Yeah. And I didn't like it. I didn't like, because first of all, the Mass was in Latin, and I didn't understand anything.
Uh-huh.
And then, like, during the war as a little girl, my mother, it's not her fault, that's what she knew. We used to sit next to the fireplace at night, her and my sister and I, and my mother said, we have to say the rosaries. But I don't want to say the rosaries. At the age, a little girl, during the war, you needed your mother to hug you and hold you and comfort you. But it wasn't my mother's fault. That's the way she was taught, So this is why I was very sad, But what really bothered me then, that by being sad, when my aunt talked to me, I felt better. But my mother she was such a strong believer in the teaching of the Catholic Church and the doctors, that the doctors used to give me injection because I was sad. And that injection, I used to get hot flashes, that I hate the feeling, that I used to beg, please, don't give it to me anymore.
The medicine was designed for what? Given to you for what purposes?
I don't know, like...
For the sadness
it was because in 1 year I grew 6 inches. And the doctor says, well, she grew too much in 1 year. 6 inches, that's normal to grow. At the age of 12, 6 inches. My son grew 6 inches when he was 12. And it gave me, finally, thank God, he stopped. And the doctor suggested, let her go to the beach for a couple weeks in the summer.
I have found that I really consider you to be an extremely truthful person. This is part of the reason why I wanted to stress in this particular subject matter being like the truth. Do you find that if people are looking for this godlike perfection that they seek, okay, is that perfection being able to deal in the absolute truth or the correctness of being correct in most situations?
We should. We should. To the best of my knowledge, I am. Because when we lie, lies get us nowhere. Because lie is from evil, and evil will destroy itself.
And lie is harmful to health?
It's harmful to anything and everybody. A lie, in Italy we used to say, la bugia è la parola di camminare, which means it gets nowhere. It gets you nowhere. When you lie, it gets you nowhere because it's not from God. The truth gets you.
Well, aren't there certain little social situations where, like sociable drinking or like little white lies that they're kind of like acceptable because like supposedly they're harmless, and some people have to learn. Well, they figure they learn how to pull their punch, so they're not gonna hurt nobody. It's little white lies not gonna hurt nobody. This little small little drinks not gonna hurt nobody.
Sure. Well, that is why, God forgive me, I never liked the teaching in the Catholic Church, because they used to tell me when I was in Bible study. The lie is not a mortal sin, it's a venial sin. To me, that never made any sense. A lie is a lie. In the Ten Commandments, says no false accusations. That's a lie. It is a mortal sin. So we lie, it's a mortal sin, not a venial sin. This is why I was never comfortable in the Catholic teachings. About drinking, drinking, the worst thing to do is start with the first drink, because then it becomes an addiction. And I never liked to drink because my mother never drank, not even a drop. So after I got married, some people used to say, drink a little bit, it's good for you. I said, but I don't like to drink. Why do I have to drink? It's good for you. It's good for your blood. Just a little bit at a time, just a little drop, put a little drop. Each day you increase. That was for them to make me to be addicted to liquor. And I used to argue with them, no, I don't like the taste of it. So, one day after my first child was born, I was alone and I was kind of sad and maybe I'll give it a try. I'm going to have a half a glass of wine. I did. I took half a glass of wine. I got so sick. Thank God that I threw up. Excuse my expression. I threw up. I got so sick. And I said to myself, how can a possible drink is good if it makes me so sick? I says, that's not for me. That's not for me. I couldn't even drink a drop. When I was in Eucharistic ministry in the Catholic Church, in the Catholic Church, they serve wine during the service, during the Last Supper. And I was Eucharistic ministry, and I used to tell the priest, I says, I'm sorry, but I cannot drink. Even a little sip, which is a drop that you put in the chalice, a little bit. It was very understandable. He says, Maria, you don't have to drink if you don't want it.
Well, again, getting back to these social situations, it seems that these little situations where you're not dealing with the absolute truth, that they become more acceptable. They become, in some situations, that you're wise, that you're practicing proper etiquette. You're being cordial. What do you say about that? About not dealing with the absolute truth, being somehow wise and proper etiquette?
I know many millions of people that they have so many beautiful celebrations with no liquor. And I remember when I went to Italy, I used to complain to my cousin about my brother likes to drink. And my cousin, which was the mayor for 40 years in my little village, sent a message to my brother. Okay, if you want to drink only half a glass, mezzo bicchiere, con l'acqua, mix with water, solo mezzo bicchiere, half a glass. He says, because I'm not here to judge or condemn or anything. For me, liquor is no good. I don't like the feeling, you know, and it scares me when I see people having even a little bit of drink, because it's just the way you start, a little bit, you know, and no, there is no way I will never accept. It's not going to kill people. I have a glass of wine, but it's not true. That's good for the blood. It's not true. It's not true.
So we're all surrounded by lots of friends, associates, or family, whatever have you. And sometimes at least these people, the others, don't quite live up to the absolute standard of the truth. Or sometimes they go a little bit overboard with the truth. Okay. Should there be an allowance made when somebody doesn't quite fall short, okay, or goes over the line when dealing with the truth?
Well, yes, it could be difficult at times. We cannot push God on people. We cannot tell people what to do. They have to be prepared by God. Because when they hear God, or if they're so used to drink or whatever they do, and we try to change people, they're scared. They are scared because they don't know the truth. And it makes it very difficult for them, and it creates problems. So we have to be more like Jesus' teaching. You know, we have to approach them with love, compassion, understanding, demonstrate the truth. That's even better. You know, show them what love is all about. Show them what God teaches us to do, us that we believe in God and follow the teaching of God, you know. So by our demonstration, they're going to like you. Say, oh, it's true. Because a lot of people say to me, what is your secret? Somebody approached me, a Muslim approached me. He was very sad that his son got involved with drugs and he's in jail. And it was very sad. And I asked him, do you have a Bible in your store? He says, yes, I do. I says, do you read the Bible? He says, no, I don't, because I'm Muslim. I says, well, I heard the Quran, the teaching is almost similar. You know, we have to be obedient to God. We have to do what's good for us, for our body. Our body is the temple of God. And he says to me, he says, give me your name. So I gave him my name. He says, you know, he says, that's why you're always happy and you look so good, because you read the Bible. Uh-huh. Oh, I think I'm going to read the Bible.
You want to look good too, right?
He says, yeah. So that's what I'm saying, you know, the demonstration.
Right.
You know.
Well, a lot has to be to show, to mediate, to show people what should be done, especially, you know, our children.
Yes.
You're a practitioner, healer. Is there any one particular situation? We won't talk about a full testimony, but is there a situation that said to you, Maria, you must be involved as a healer in the process. You must be able to get into people's mind and show them where the spirit can make them whole.
Well, I'm a healer because 1960, when my daughter was born, the doctor said, we have to wait 5 days, Maria, to see if the baby will live. And I just didn't want to listen to what the doctor had to say. And I asked the nurse, do you have a chapel? Please take me. She said, sure. Mm-hmm. So I went to the chapel. I got on my knees. I lit a candle. I said the Lord's Prayer, and I simply asked God to please help my baby. And 2 weeks later, I brought her to the doctor. The doctor examined her. She was perfect the way God created her. So this went on, and then again, another situation happened when she was 1962. And from April to October, she went to the hospital twice. The doctors did what whatever they thought was the right thing to do, and but she still continued. I have this terrible wheezing and lose her breath, and I never stopped praying. I kept on praying and praying and praying and praying, and then finally, one day on Saturday, my mother came to see the baby, and she picked up the baby, and she says, the baby's fine. I says, I don't know what to tell you. I didn't think at that moment. So on Monday, I took her to the doctor, to the pediatrician. He examined her thoroughly, and he said, I don't know what to tell you, but her lungs are completely clear. I looked at him, and I said, well, God did it. And he smiled, the doctor smiled. And this went on, and then my sister was in a terrible car accident. She was dragged 35 feet. She was in a coma for 3 weeks. Most of her bones were broken. They're talking about in the late 60s. And I pray, and every time I pray, God answered my prayer. Because when I pray, I don't just pray for material stuff.
So it's kind of like
it was just natural.
you were communicating with the ultimate healer, God.
Yes, I was.
And that communication is prayer.
Yeah, prayer. It's how you pray. I would pray on my knees, and then in time when I started reading the Bible and learn how Jesus prayed, I used to pray the same way as Jesus prayed. I said, Father, let it be thy will, not mine, be done. And and I was searching. My brother-in-law had surgery. My mother was diagnosed with cancer. She had surgery. I mean, I don't know, anything I ever pray, always pray for good. And then I remember it was Christmas time in 1971, a Jewish woman, she was my customer, and she asked me, what would you like for Christmas, Maria? I says, what I really want for Christmas, you really want to know? I want peace in the world. Mm-hmm. I was just, wow, that's the best gift anybody can have, right, know. And that was when I started reading the Bible, 1971. I started reading the Bible in 1971. And searching for the truth,
When you're talking about healing, okay, let me try to understand possibly what might be your mindset. Do you figure that we are spiritual organizations?
We are all spiritual people.
Organizations.
All of us, the whole world, every creation, every child in the world is God's image and likeness.
So, is part of the problem that we're more concerned with the body, stuff, the corporal nature of us all, that we miss that basically, if we're a system, if we're an organization, a complete system, kind of like a computer, okay, it's not the hardware that's important. It's the software, the spirit. Okay. Right.
The spirit controls us. There's only one mind, God's mind, that controls all of us. But we also have to have a respect for our body, because the body is the temple of God.
Right.
You know. And Jesus wasn't obese. Jesus walked, and he ate everything, and he, so I tried to be like Jesus was, I guess. And
I'm reminded in this day where so many of our children are so quick to pick up concepts with the computer and all. Okay, I have no problem with that, but they have a problem with picking up about the spirit. So if you can understand about the language of software and being able to tell this machine what to do, these different applications, if you can see that as a child, it seems to me that you could see that the language to the master healer, is effective prayer. That's the programming, to be able to program yourself to be able to communicate with God.
Well, that's a big mistake that America made, unfortunately. Remove the Lord's Prayer from the schools. That's a big mistake, because the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning, I'm still in bed, I say, I wake up and see the light. God has kept me through the night. The first prayer I say is the Lord's Prayer. And every time, in any situation, doesn't matter if I go on the computer, I don't have much knowledge with the computer. And sometimes something gets interfering. And I say the Lord's Prayer, I say, God, you control my computer. Take care of my computer. No interference. God gave the knowledge to people how to build a computer and how to, because computer is good.
Right.
I mean, it's wonderful. My son says, look, Ma, you could send a message to Australia to your cousins in 1 minute. So it's wonderful. Unfortunately, it's what people put in the computer sometimes, you know.
The
and we
application.
have to
Right.
be aware, you know. You don't open up the computer. You know, the computer is meant to be like the body. You know, don't put bad stuff in your mouth. Put food in your mouth. Respect your body. So we are a computer. We are a computer. Our mind is a computer. You know, it's what we listen. So if it's not from God, it's not good. So please turn it off. Get away from bad stuff.
So the key thing, and you know, this is why I really appreciate your book, is because a lot of times there is this discussion or this debate, this big question about, just quite simple, does God exist?
Yes,
Okay, and it would seem like it's a no-brainer, you know, to this predominantly Christian society of ours, that God does exist. But that has to be like reinforced, it seems. Is that what you were trying to do in writing your book, to just reinforce that God exists?
I'm a living truth. I'm here because there is a God. If there was no God, I wouldn't be here today. I would not be here to tell the world God does exist.
Mm-hmm.
He told me, you must convince people, Maria, that I do exist. And I was afraid at that time. And when I did tell certain people that God does exist, because I wasn't afraid to say he told me. I says, I had a dream, because my mother was scared. I says, I had a dream.
Huh?
I had a dream.
Yeah.
I approached the Catholic Church, the first thing I approached. And I says, God tells me to tell you that he does exist. And he says, me? I says, yeah, you. And his face turned white. You know, he went back to God, this individual. And then the biggest mistake was when I told the doctors, you know, it's like I just questioned me, who are you? I says, at first, it drugged me first. I was like sleeping, and I said, I'm Jesus. He says, how can you be Jesus? Well, you know what I mean. I'm a disciple of Jesus.
Okay.
I was a disciple of Jesus, and I didn't even know. God was instructing me as a child.
Right.
You know, and he says, oh, yeah, put her to sleep. So he kept on drugging me and put me to sleep. Why? Because I believe in God. I have to be drugged? No. That was absolutely wrong. People that don't believe in God should be disciplined. Like Jesus says, I came to save the sinners. They're not sick, do not need a physician. So there is a God. Absolutely, there is a God. Anyone who reads my book will be convinced that there is a God. You know, but human people, I don't know why they have to see to believe. And no one has ever seen God and lived. Not even Moses see God. Not even Jesus see God. You know, faith, it's a belief. You know, I feel comfortable. I feel comfortable in believing God.
So there's a correspondence. I mean, we're establishing that the truth is God.
The truth is God. Yeah,
So,
God is truth.
okay,
Yeah, God doesn't lie. God never changes.
Is the Spirit.
He was the
Okay.
same yesterday, today, and forever. He'll never change. Never.
So we can also say that God is the Spirit.
He's
The
a spirit. Yeah, he's infinite, spiritual. Spirit, not spirits. Spirit. God is spirit. Yeah, and we are spiritual. We are God's image and likeness. We are his children. We are his creation. And that's why he sent Jesus into the world. To fulfill the law of Moses, not to condemn the world.
Well, I think that kind of like puts a period on our conversation about the truth and does God does exist.
Yes, it does.
I thank you very much, Maria, for being my guest.
You're welcome. Thank you.